chapel this morning and introducing our full theme this year, which is stewardship. And so we got to unpack that idea from Genesis chapter 2, where you see God creating essentially the universe, everything, and at the very end of it giving us Adam and Eve, who then become the world's first stewards. And they're in charge of managing creation and all the gifts that have filled the created world that God gave to us. And so that's really what a steward is. A steward is someone who gets to manage and cultivate, develop the resources that God has given them. They're the gifts that God has entrusted to them. And yet at the same time, even though they're a leader, they're a manager as a steward, they're also accountable to God. And so they are going to be asked down the road what they've done with what God's given them, their gifts, the resources. And I think the three gifts, the three resources that high schoolers struggle with the most, that we even see in Genesis, are sex, money, and power. And so this morning we got to really talk about what it means to maintain those things as gifts and still keep God at the center as the giver, really the one who's doing everything there in Genesis 2 as the creator and should be the center of life. But secondly, we failed in doing that. As you know, Genesis 3 comes to us and tells us that we did not maintain God at the center, but exchanged the glory of God for the glory of humans and stuff, really. So in a sense, we pushed away the giver and brought closer the gifts and made them the central thing in our lives. And as a result, that's left us with a sinful and broken world and keeps us really from being stewards in our lives. But God doesn't leave us there. That's the good news of the gospel. God comes to us in the person of Christ and gives to us the ultimate gift, which is himself. And so when we come to see him for who he is and what he's given to us, it actually empowers us to be saved. So we move from a position of being a slave to our things and a slave to our gifts and resources back to a steward of those things. And so today, this morning in chapel, here at Woodcrest Christian, we got to explore what that means and what that looks like and how we as a school can start to see ourselves no longer as slaves to our stuff, to sex, money, and power, and knowledge, and education, and sports, but really as stewards of those things, so that we might take the gifts that God's given us and use them for his glory and really the good of all people. Because the Christian faith is a faith that says God is making this world brand new. And we get to play a part of that in the way that we steward what we have. And so as you are family and friends of the Woodcrest Christian School System, as you speak with your students and your family members tonight, you can ask them what it really means to be a steward biblically. What does it mean to be a steward? Why is it that we fail to do that, right? Because Genesis 2 is not what we see anymore. But then lastly, how in Jesus can we be freed from slavery to stuff and really a steward of those things? So